Hi, greetings, this is Laura. You're watching Beyond 7. I created this channel for curious minds. So if you have a curiosity, you're in the right place. In this video today, we will talk about a strategy, or let's say strategies to overcome shyness. This is a presentation that I gave in a workshop for a career fair, and the feedback that I received was super amazing. I geared the message today towards overcoming shyness. Are you ready? Let's do this. Today's exercise is very simple. And imagine that you have 3 points shaping up a triangle, and each point stands for something. Easy, right? Now you can take this exercise with you anywhere you go, and remember just these 3 points, and once you remember them, you will be able to apply them in any circumstance that you desire. The feedback that I received was, hey, I've used this in personal relationships, I've used this for personal branding in my career, I use it in the office, I use it for work projects, I use it when I'm creative, and so on. So you can do the same. The 3 points of the triangle are what I communicate, how I communicate, and who I communicate with. According to a study from 1984, conducted by a professor from Stanford University, Professor Dr. Phil Zimbardo, 90% of people consider themselves shy. Now, the good news is 8% only of the people involved in the study suffered from phobias, meaning it's harder for them to move past this shyness. So that means good news for the rest of us, okay? This is what I call a matrix. A matrix because you can take it and apply it in any given circumstance. And this triangle is actually 3 different points. It's easier to remember them as a geometrical shape. And each point stands for one word: what, how, and who. In other words, what I communicate, how I communicate, and who I communicate with. Because in this video, we are talking about being shy and having a strategy to overcome this. Shyness is a state, and usually if you talk to somebody who is shy, or if you consider yourself shy, you know it is difficult for you to get out of a certain shell and just be more of yourself. It's not comfortable, it creates stress and certain tension and frustration in yourself. I used to consider myself shy, and not just shy, but according to the Myers-Briggs personality test, you may be familiar with this, I was labeled as an introvert, and I would consider myself an introvert. I would not be comfortable talking in front of people or in large groups, and whenever I had to speak up and express an opinion, I would have such stress that I would rather be anywhere else but in that situation. But at the point I realized, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. So if this is something that you feel, or you want to ask yourself, is this how I want to continue? Then don't even watch this video. But if you've been through this and you realize that you want to change something, then keep watching, and I promise you this is a simple trick that you can apply to go beyond this stressful situation. What you communicate. You have to remember only 2 things here. Something that you've prepared, be prepared to speak about who you are, and be prepared to improvise. Now you would say, how can I prepare to improvise? Believe me, you can. Well, let's take the first one. Be prepared to talk about yourself. And this is what it's called a pitch. P-I-T-C-H. People use it in sales, people use it in promoting themselves in marketing, and so on. A pitch is a mini speech about who you are, and you want to make it positive and uplifting, and no longer than 60 to 90 seconds. Now, you also want to be prepared to improvise. And yes, you can prepare ahead of time to be unprepared. In other words, to improvise. And how you do this? You do this by choosing 4 different subjects. And usually these subjects are weather, sports, things that you are fond of, and the location, that's another one. Here, you want to avoid talking about politics, sex, and religion. Usually, this can throw you in a corner of communication, and you don't want to get there because remember, we are doing this to overcome shyness. Take the second point, how you communicate. Here, I also want you to remember two different things. You can have a closed-in posture, or you can be open here. Of course, if you consider yourself shy, most of the time you are here in a very closed-in posture and you don't want to look up, you don't want to look around, you just want to be here. You can overcome that by getting yourself ready to get out there and prepare with this exercise of opening. Some people call this exercise the airplane exercise for obvious reasons. Others call it bird. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. When you know you have something that makes you uncomfortable and more likely throw you in a closed-in situation, you want to open up. And the way you do this, you of course find a comfortable place, an isolated place where you're just by yourself, and exaggerate this posture, okay? And if you have your pitch ready, you may want to be here and say your speech pitch. In other words, those 60-90 seconds, you want to exaggerate them. Why? Because you rewire your brain. And this is something that's been studied. It's not me saying this, just throwing this out there at you. What you do by practicing the opening and exaggerating, you will eventually get to a point where you will no longer be here, but you will naturally kind of fall into place in alignment with who you say you are. At this point, you no longer want to call yourself shy. Maybe you're just a recovering shy person or something like that, because with this exercise, you will change the entire image about yourself, and you want to let that into your consciousness. You want to change your story, because if you continue to call yourself shy and continue to fall into this pattern here of closed-in posturing, it's going to be more difficult. So change the narrative as well. Who you communicate. You may have the best crafted message, you may be well spoken and everything. However, if you don't have the right audience, then it's like you are talking to a wall and nobody's actually replying back to you. Remember, in any circumstance where we have communication, you have a sender, the person who sends the message out, and you also have a receiver, the person who accepts the message, processes it, and sends it back to you. And that's how you establish communication. For shy people, usually they stay in a closed-in situation, and that's by being here, you can imagine what exactly they communicate. They communicate that they're not approachable, they communicate that they're afraid, that they don't have the skills, and so on and so forth. So once again, you want to ask yourself, where do I want to be? What do I want to be here? Or do I want to practice this exercise and bring into my awareness how, what, and who I communicate with, so that I am no longer defining myself as a shy person, but now you can become a person with skills to face any situation. Because the more you open, the more opportunities you have in life. Here is a recap of the matrix. Close your eyes, imagine a triangle, and each point has one word: what, how, and who. This is the matrix. Take it, apply it. If you're a shy guy or a shy person, a shy girl, apply it in any circumstance. Remember that you want to prepare ahead of time before you go out there. And I promise you 1, 2, 3 months and you will be able to define yourself as a recovering shy person. I think that would be the appropriate terminology. Feel free to comment below and let us know how it went, if you used this exercise. These are exercises meant to bring you to the next level of self-empowerment. And unless you have a phobia of situation and people, you can recover according to the Stanford University study that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Remember, subscribe, have the notifications on, and in the description below and in the comments you can find free downloads that you can use. This is Hergane and you are watching Beyond 7.